I got paid off pain today. Thought it'd take the pain away. In my own lane, single. Oh, I would never sell my only soul. Heard your whole team was for sale. Heard this on the market.
Like It or Not with Benjamin Dixon starts now.
Good morning, people. Brother Ben, good morning, son.
What's going on, Brother James? How's it going, man? Welcome to Like It or Not, where we're free to tell the truth and not care who doesn't like it. If you're watching, you obviously can see we're missing 1/3 of our team. Rebecca Azor is going to be out today and tomorrow. So, James, somehow we got to find out, enjoy ourselves, even though Rebecca's not here.
Right, man. Free Rebecca. Free Azor.
Hashtag free. Hashtag free Azor. Man, how's everything going, man? How was your weekend? How did you adjust to this time change?
Man, so for one thing, dude, I'm not going to tell you the story. I almost feel like Rebecca. I have a story, but the weekend was very interesting, to say the least.
Uh-oh.
I mean, it was still turned out good. It was a good weekend.
Okay.
Then the time change on Saturday. I decided I wanted pizza, and I can't share all of that part of that story, but I wanted pizza.
Say that one for the patron party.
That's the patron party. Yes.
Yeah, we had to share that one there.
Let's just know that when I went to go get pizza, it was 1 something. Then once that 2 o'clock hour came, boom, 3 o'clock hit. I'm like, what the hell? And I was all messed up. And then I got stranded up there at the pizza place. It was just a whole ordeal. It was a lot. It was a whole lot.
Oh, you got stranded, man. What you doing getting stranded, man? You too grown, too old to be getting stranded. The car situation stuff. Man. Oh, you can't. Okay. We'll leave it.
Yes,
we'll leave it there.
The car situation. But it was a car situation mess up on my part.
Okay. Man, I didn't. You know what? It's weird because I know we lost an hour of sleep, but I feel like I felt like I gained an hour of sleep. I don't know how that works. Like normally this time of year I'm miserable, but I guess it's because I'm not. Normally this time of year I'd be out in the streets, but I'm not. Right. So it was easy for me to just kind of wake up in the morning. I'm like, oh. Lost a whole hour of sleep, but it was fine. So nothing eventful for me, man. Just another weekend of doing my dad thing and all this stuff that we do around here. So no exciting stories for me, and that's why I like to keep Rebecca around because like my stuff is just boring. Like I wake up, I cook breakfast, I do some work, I do the show, then I go back and do some more work. And then I could, I'm just with the kids, making sure they're reading some books and all that, and that's it. So that is my life story. But wait till I get this vaccine, man.
Right. Dude, I did I did like 5 or 6 pre-registrations, though. I'm not going to lie to y'all. I'm trying to get this mother sucker as soon as I can.
As soon as possible. Shout out to everyone in the chat room. Be sure, and all the different chat rooms, be sure to hit the like, share, and subscribe button. Make sure that you're getting all the notifications for Like It or Not. Speaking of vaccines, James, there is nearly half of U.S. men who identify as Republicans said that they have no plans to get the coronavirus vaccine, according to a new poll released on this past Thursday. The poll found that a higher amount of opposition amongst Republicans, with 41% saying that they would not get one of the 3 federally approved coronavirus vaccines. And 49% of Republican men said the same. 50% of the GOP men said that they would get the vaccine or had already gotten it. So it's like straight down the middle with Republican men saying that they're not going to get. So to me, honestly, oh, well, that's too bad for them. I mean, it's like natural selection, right? It's like it's the Darwin Awards. If they have, and this really speaks, man. This really speaks to how politicized this pandemic is. And the more I think about how politicized this pandemic is and how committed these dummies are to their politics, to the point where they are really going. I mean, coronavirus isn't going to go anywhere anytime soon. And it's not as though the impact of a person who's not vaccinated is going to be lessened because there's fewer people with it. No, these men are Republicans are setting themselves up to die. Because, I mean, let's just be real. Like, Some of them are some walking comorbidities. Like they out here, you know what I mean, going to Golden Corral. They out here. I saw a whole bunch of these, and I know they're Republicans because one, they weren't wearing masks. Two is Georgia,
right?
And three, they were older white people. So nine times out of 10, they were conservative. I saw them all going into Cracker Barrel. I'm like, bro, imagine getting coronavirus and dying because you had to go to Cracker Barrel and eat some of their janky grits, right? But this is where we
irony.
Right. Like, I mean, they're not even in the conversation of sugar on grits. They just got these watered down grits at Cracker Barrel that they going in there, and they don't want to get the vaccine because but here's the thing. Here's the gag, James. Donald Trump got the vaccine back in January.
Oh, wow.
So while they're trying to make a political statement saying that they won't get the vaccine, their leader, who they worship, got it already. What you think about these dummies, man?
Chilling in Mar-a-Lago, Mar-a-damn-Lago, as my daddy would say. But man, that's okay. It's a couple of things I feel about this. For one, this is the zombie apocalypse happening because those Republicans that don't want to get the vaccine, they're going to be the zombies. So here it is. We're thinking that if I get the vaccine, I'm going to turn into a zombie. No, it's going to be those Republicans, and we're going to be good. But to me, it makes absolutely no sense. Why would you not want to get the vaccine? Oh, answer my own question. They don't even believe coronavirus is real, dude. So those people will be the reason that we are still in the damn house in 2021.
That's what, right? 2022 for that matter, right?
2022.
Like we're almost at the point where we can see some kind of group activities in the summer, right? July 4th was what Joe Biden said in his last speech, and that's just on a small scale basis. But in terms, I mean, and you think about where these guys like to go, right? Let's just play this out. Like these are the guys who are going to be sitting at the bars, spreading coronavirus amongst each other because I'm gonna be vaccinated. I might be at the bar, but I'm gonna be vaccinated, right? They're the ones at all the strip clubs, right? Spreading the stanky breath coronavirus, getting people sick who didn't. And here's the other thing. There is a percentage of black people who are also saying that they're not going to get the coronavirus. It's a much smaller percentage. I think it was around 29%, if my memory serves me correctly. So there is going to be, for a long time, people still dying from the coronavirus because they simply refuse to get vaccinated. And man, I mean, like we've got millions of people have now gotten vaccinated. Over the weekend, there was one day alone where we vaccinated over 4 million Americans, right? And so the odds are in our favor for everyone who is as I can't say I'm superstitious, but I sure wasn't going to be the first one in line to get the vaccine.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Here, Ben. Same here.
I sure as hell was not going to participate in the trials. But now you've got, like, over the weekend, you've got 6 million people total who got vaccinated in a 2-day period, and with mild side effects being reported, and you still have a percentage of this country, 50% of Republican men, and about 29% of black people who are saying they don't want to get the vaccine. And I'm like, you guys must just want us to be here for the next 2 or 3 years dealing with people still dying from coronavirus when we could absolutely get control of this. And it's because of the politics on one side. Yeah. And on the other side, it's because of continued misinformation. It is because, don't get me wrong, I understand people have this, black people in particular have a hesitation with regards to all the different ways that this country has violated our health, using us in experiments. But you know what else black people are noticing? That we are disproportionately the victims of coronavirus, right? Yeah. We're disproportionately dying and being severely incapacitated because of the effects of coronavirus. And all of those reasons are locked in to the reality of our health disparities in our country, right? We're not more prone to coronavirus because we're black. We're more prone to coronavirus because we're overrepresented as essential workers, frontline workers, bus drivers, people who are doing these critical jobs because of poverty, because we don't have health care and we haven't had health care. And because we haven't had health care for all these years, decades upon decades of people not being able to go see a doctor, right? These are like the real issues that are exacerbated in the black community, right? And so now that we see that number of people who have been hesitant about getting the vaccine has gone in the black community has steadily gone down, while in the Republican community, it's steadily gone up. And so we're dealing with a lot of stupidity that is going to be extremely dangerous. Like this is a level of stupidity and hyper partisanship on behalf of these Republicans that they're willing to die for. And I think before I even play this next clip, because there's more to the vaccine story, but man, these folks are willing to die for their politics. And it's not as though they're willing to die in order to help other people, right? It's not as though they're revolutionary and they're like, oh, I'm willing to die in order to, make sure that everybody has food and everybody has housing and everybody has health. No, they're willing to die to make their political statement that they simply refuse to take a vaccine because that's what their leader put in their heads just before he got the vaccine himself. So it's a level of stupidity and level of ignorance that is going to get a lot more people unnecessarily so killed. That said, with all of the successes of the rollout of the vaccine here in the United States, not everyone is excited or happy that Joe Biden is now on the receiving end of the credit for the vaccine rollout. On Friday morning, Tim Scott, Republican senator from South Carolina, appeared on Fox News to discuss the rapid vaccine rollout. Although Joe Biden's administration can be credited for much of the rollout success, Tim Scott felt like he needed to correct the record. Let's take a look at this clip.
And for there to be no ability to share credit on such a day when we were recognizing 520,000 Americans had lost their lives, thank God for the genius of the Trump administration who delivered 300 million doses ready to be put in arms on day one.
Now, I said this last week. If the Trump administration had anything to do with the successful rollout of the vaccines, thank you. There's absolutely no reason for us to politicize the creation and the rollout of the vaccine. That said, he ain't in office no more. And he is part of the reason, a huge part of the reason that those 527,000 people are dead because of how he politicized wearing masks, how he politicized how he told people that it'd be over by, like, remember he did this, like, it'll be over by April. It's just like a miracle. It's going to go away, right? He put this in the heads of so many Americans. And because of that, before the vaccine could even roll out, we were already at like 450,000 people dead. So if you're going to thank God for the genius of Donald Trump, it would be bad faith for you not to recognize that those people are dead because of Donald Trump. And then Tim Scott, there's something going on in the Republican Party that I want people, and we'll talk about it a little bit more as we go through this episode. There is a concerted effort by Republicans to shift the conversation not only away from Donald Trump in terms of the responsibility of everything that he did wrong, but also Tim Scott is the same politician who last week said that he's not concerned about white supremacy. He's concerned about woke supremacy. So he's escalating the amount of step and fetchery that he's doing, all this cooning and buffooning that he's doing, because he's going beyond just defending Donald Trump. He's going into the realm of, now I'm defending Donald Trump by also attacking blackness head on, attacking the idea of wokeness and calling it woke supremacy, right? And the idea that anyone who is challenging this system, we are ourselves an example of supremacy, right? So this is just part and parcel of the role that people like Tim Scott play in this country. And he couldn't, for the life of him, actually do anything but kiss Donald Trump's ass, even though Donald Trump is no longer in office, which just is, I don't know, man. What do you think about this clown, man?
Clown. Simple as that. Nothing else to say.
Clown ass.
Because so damn stupid, bro. I just hate it.
And it's stupid, and it's unnecessary in terms of what needs to be done right now.
Right.
Like,
yes,
what
man.
needs to be done right now is that he needs to go and convince those 50% of Republican men, right? If you want to talk about the genius of Donald Trump, why is Donald Trump and Tim Scott and all the rest of the Republicans not helping their constituents understand the necessity for this vaccine. And that's because they are more interested in playing this political game, even if it costs people their lives, which is exactly, James, it is exactly why we are where we are right at this moment. And that's because they do not give a damn about the lives of people. All they really care about is their own personal political ambition and their own personal power, political power. And they understand that right now, the only way that they're going to get to power is through Donald Trump. And so they're willing to not only sacrifice people, Tim Scott is willing to sacrifice his integrity as well as his humanity. I was going to say manhood, but that's completely irrelevant. He's willing to sacrifice his humanity to grovel before the feet of Donald Trump and to do the bidding of white supremacy by shifting the conversation in the country away from the white supremacists who marched up the steps on January 6th and saying, no, that's not who we need to really worry about. What we really need to worry about are not white supremacists, but woke supremacists. And that is the next, that's the next level of tomfoolery that we're getting from Tim Scott along with the Republicans. And it's not only an insult, but the injury is their actions are absolutely going to lead to more deaths. Let's do this. There's another part of this vaccine story that I want to go over when we come back. I want to take a quick break. And when we come back, we're going to discuss the problems of the patents on these vaccines as it is hurting people in the global south. We'll talk about that with More Like It or Not after this.
Welcome again, everyone. Monday morning, March 15th. Hope you're enjoying the episode thus far. I am DJ Exclusive, y'all. Good to see everybody this morning. Shout out to everybody that's checking us out in the chat room. And as usual, we're going to give you some of this good music.
Talk to me nice, talk to me honestly. Look in my eyes, don't let it fall on me. Say you're a good guy, make me believe it. Don't wanna hear it, I wanna see it. See how rewind when we rewind.
Good morning, everyone that's checking us out in the chat rooms. Make sure that you like, share, comment, subscribe, all of that good stuff, y'all. So you know when Like It or Not is going down.
To make me feel right.
Nat A, Nat M, Nat Squad in the building, y'all. Good morning. Alicia, good morning.
I'm pulling up, don't be late. I'm cutting through all the days.
Daddy, that's what's up. Good morning.
Don't need to say this to me. Don't need for no flowers, babe. I'm already
Brother Goku, good morning, good morning. Courtney, good morning.
Yeah, sweet concussion. Oh, you miss my touching. Good girl. Show me something. You be more than one thing.
Chuck Diesel, Courtney, good morning.
Say you're a good guy.
Good morning, mother. Love you, mommy. Good morning.
I wanna see it. See how we rewind. It's so nice.
Shamar Woodard, I appreciate that. Martha, good morning. Shout out to Sensation, good morning.
Sweet talk, you need to say this to me. No need for no flowers, babe. I'm already on my way, on my way. We've been dancing all night long. Right here with you way too long. Don't want nothing here or now. But I'm done waiting, done waiting.
Lisa Noel, good morning.
I'm already on my way.
Judah, good morning, sir. Good morning.
Don't be late. I'm cutting through all the lanes. Sweet talk, you don't need to say this to me.
Mark, good morning.
I'm already on my way, on my way.
Time goes by and yet I wonder, are you and me still the same? Do you still love the thing I know I don't? The guest is falling now and under. I know the laughter and the pain. Will I ever love again? I don't know if I can take it anymore.
Mark, Marquez, good morning, good morning.
And hold my heart.
Shout out to everybody that's checking us out on Twitch, Facebook, YouTube, y'all. Shout out to y'all. We appreciate y'all.
Promise to myself, and I repeat it in my head. Set your mind free. Set your mind free. No one knows what I've been through, but this is the end of me and you. Set your mind free. Made a promise to myself, this time I will keep it. Where there's a will, yeah, there's no way. With every smile, with every shit, I know
Hey, get a 9, good morning.
I'm gonna see you brighter day. Oh, oh,
That's the good morning, good morning.
a brighter day.
Nikki, good morning. All right, y'all, coming back to the screen now that we got a brighter day going on, y'all. Welcome back, my brother from another mother, Benjamin Dixon.
James, appreciate you, man. I want to jump right into.
You know I got you.
Hey, man. What was that? Was that Brighter Day? Was the name
Yeah,
of that
see a
song?
brighter day. Yeah, see a brighter day.
I'm feeling that one. I
Yeah,
like that
me
one.
too. The
I want to
lyrics
go
are deep.
to what's that?
That's it. The lyrics are real deep, real deep.
Oh yeah, man. You know, listen, man. This Zoom delay, this Zoom delay.
I
be
hate it, bruh.
It's just enough. It's just enough to make it seem like we're not in sync. But it's like, no, I got you. No, it's a dope. It's a dope song. And honestly, if I could, I'm gonna put in my request. I don't even know the name of the song, but the one with the brothers like throw your fist up. The one like you played it last Friday.
I got you. I already got you.
I'll think of it. That's the song I need.
Favorite song. I already got you. I got you.
All right, that's it. That's what's up. All right, now we're going to shift gears to some international news as it pertains to the COVID vaccination. The United States and the European Union blocked efforts to make generic vaccines. Last week, the World Trade Organization met to discuss a proposal by South Africa and India that would waive the COVID vaccine patent rights worldwide. Effectively, South Africa and India were trying to pass a waiver that would allow them to domestically manufacture the COVID vaccines without the approval or input from the original patent holders. For example, Johnson & Johnson, Moderna, AstraZeneca, and Pfizer. In October, Doctors Without Borders collected signatures from over 375 civil society organizations that supported this waiver. Despite this, countries such as Britain, Switzerland, and the United States, and the European Union opposed this measure. They were able to successfully block the waiver. These countries now argue that protecting the intellectual property rights of these vaccines encourage research and innovation, and this waiver would not result in a sudden surplus of vaccines. Here's the problem. We're in a damn pandemic. We're in a pandemic where this vaccine needs to get to as many people as possible. What's not really being said here in the United States is that every single vial of vaccine is being paid for. It's being paid for by the federal government, which at the end of the day means windfall profits for these companies, for all of these pharmaceutical companies that created the vaccine. Now, at this juncture right now today, I'm not going to spend a lot of energy arguing over that, but I think it needs to be said that underneath all of this disaster, underneath all the people who are dying, people are getting rich. Now I'm going to line up and I'm going to get my vaccine because I ain't trying to die. But every single shot is being paid for. And by the European Union and the federal government here in the United States blocking these other nations from being able to get a generic brand of this, that means that these other nations are going to have to pay the same price or their negotiated price as every other nation's, which means that there is a strong possibility that poorer nations, without the assistance of other nations, will not be able to roll out the vaccine as successfully because they will not have the funds to do it. This is something that we've seen time and again across the globe, where people's lives are put secondary to the profits of organizations and corporations. This plays itself out time and again, particularly throughout the global South, not just in this situation, but with every other scenario that you could think of. In every scenario we see where there is an opportunity for lives to be saved, it is always placed secondary, especially as it pertains to poorer nations across the globe. Now, these pharmaceutical companies have our backs up against the wall because we got to get these vaccines. They know it. And this is, it's difficult because we need the vaccines, right? But it just has to, we got to remember, we absolutely cannot lose sight of the fact that even in this scenario, even in this crisis, people's lives are, throughout this entire crisis, our lives have been secondary to the profits of corporations. Not just as it pertains to this vaccine, but the mere fact that we were not able to successfully shut down, that was because people had to get their money. Corporations had to hit their quarterly profit margins. The very things that we could have done to save lives, we did not do. The United States government has every capacity to have paid every single American to stay home for 2 months, 3 months even, to pay every corporation, to every business owner, small business owner, every single bar, every single club that was itching to open again because they needed to make money. The federal government has more than enough capacity to have subsidized them, but they didn't. And that's because we continuously live in a system that puts greed above the value of human life. And what's going on here, and this is a part of the Biden administration, let's be sure. Don't get me wrong. The Trump administration would have done the same thing. The Obama administration would have done the same thing because they did do the same thing. The Bush administration would have done the same thing. And that is because the priority in this country, no, the priority across this globe, I want to make sure this is not just the United States. This is endemic to every single nation that puts profit before their people. We see time and again that lives are expendable in order to protect the profit and the wealth of the richest people in this nation. How else do you think billionaires just in this pandemic were able to create about $1 trillion of wealth for themselves, while people in this country and across the globe stood in bread lines, lost their jobs, lost their homes, lost their apartments, while the wealthiest in this country got even richer. They took, I said created, but let me correct myself. They took enough wealth from the American people during this pandemic to cover the entire value of this $1.9 trillion bill. The priorities in this country have never changed. And the priorities across this globe have never changed because they relentlessly and consistently will put the profit of any corporation over the lives of thousands upon thousands of people. Time and again, it never fails. And in this case, what are we supposed to do? What are we supposed to do except let them take all of this money? Because if they don't get it, our government's not going to nationalize this vaccine. The governments across this planet are not going to seize this vaccine and nationalize it and nationalize the production process to ensure that everyone can get it for free. So instead, we subsidized it and we're paying for every single shot. And the way they get away with it is because, well, out of sight, out of mind. Most people are not thinking about how that vaccine is getting paid for. We're just glad to get the vaccine. But the truth of the matter is that your tax dollars, your participation, your consumption, your labor, all of your efforts to help generate and create and sustain this system, we are paying for these vaccines. And they're getting rich because of it. James, take me to a break, man. We'll be back after this.
I gotta tell y'all, when Ben get up there and start doing his thing, my brother kills it, y'all. I'm sorry. He speaks speaks truth. A lot of truth and facts. Shout out to Ben, man. Shout out to my brother Ben. But good morning again, y'all. We hope y'all are enjoying the episode thus far. Make sure that you keep it locked. Make sure that you're in the like button, y'all. Make sure that y'all are sharing and commenting, y'all.
When I get you back, oh yeah. When I get you back, oh yeah. When I get you back, oh yeah. I promise you'll never leave me. When it comes to you and me, there's no one else.
And also, y'all, if you want to become a patron, support the show, become a patron, and get that ad-free content, go to patreon.com/the BPD show. Patreon.com/the BPD show. And if you do, you'll be able to attend all the patron parties that I DJ. And when I tell you they are epic, it's something you don't ever want to miss, y'all. So make sure that you join. Patreon.com/the BPD show, y'all.
Hope you feel that way too.
Happy birthday, Gail, and thank you for that super chat. Happy birthday to you. Good morning, Melanie.
When I get you back, oh yeah. When I get you back, oh yeah. When I get you back, oh yeah.
Shantae, good morning, and thank you so much, man. You know, I do what I can.
Oh, when I get you back, oh yeah. Cause I don't wanna lose you. I hope you feel that way too. No, I don't wanna lose you. Baby, don't go.
Mina, good morning. Oh, thank you for that.
When I get you back, oh yeah, I promise you'll never leave me. When it comes to you and me, there's no one else I'd rather be with. I could really use a change of scenery. Yeah, everybody's smoking all the greenery. Yeah, clothes and matches they were handed down to me, but I'm still fly. I'm still fly. I know. I'm still fly, let's go. It can all be worse, I could be a hater like you. It could all be worse. Pills to make the man, but that poison's gonna kill you. From the inside out, so right now. Say it with your chest now, say it with your chest now. I'm young, I'm free. Can't nobody take me here and now.
Lisa, so good to have you back.
It's my time, it's my time, it's my time to ride. I'm young, I'm free. Can't nobody take me here
That's it.
and now. It's my time to ride it out. It's my time, it's my time, it's my time to ride it out. It's my time, oh. Cheers to all the haters, cause you proved to me that rising to the
Pixie
top
on the moon, good morning.
And you can see whatever from behind me, but I'm still fly, I know. I'm still fly, let's go. It could all be worse, I could be a hater like you. It could all
be like, yo, he's really singing.
But that poison's gonna kill you. From the inside out, it's time to say it with your chest now, say it with your chest now. I'm young, I'm free. Can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to ride it out. It's my time, it's my time, it's my time to ride it. I'm young, I'm free. Can't nobody take me here and now. It's my time to ride it out. It's my time, it's my time, it's my time to ride it now. It's my time, If you're on a train, say yeah. Yeah. If you gotta walk, say yeah. Yeah. Everybody's going somewhere. Yeah. Young or old, I really don't care. Yeah. Life has never really been fair. Yeah. So put your fist up in the air. Yeah. Say yeah.
That boy's singing, man.
I'm free.
Hey.
Ain't nobody
That ass is my favorite song, dude.
It is. It's a good one.
It's my time to run it.
This thing speaks to my spirit.
You know what I mean? It's when he say, throw your fist up in the air, man. What's out of there?
Right.
That's my jam. Welcome back,
Man.
folks. Welcome back. Oh, man. That's a good one. That's a good one to set the mood right. Speaking of setting the mood right, I want y'all to take a look at this sister. I assume that she filmed this from the UK because of her accent. But she put a nice ribbon around the story of the royals and Meghan Markle and all the last weeks of shenanigans. Just take a listen to this sister break it down as to why they need to get a new social media manager. Take a listen.
Hilarious videos on Instagram. Who is doing the royal family's publicity? They've got to be 178 years old. Whose idea was it to send out Prince William? Go quick, get out there and have a black woman walk behind you quickly. The day after the Oprah Winfrey interview, the palace's social media was posting pictures of Prince Charles with black people. Charles, you need to get out there right now and shake some black people's hands. Touch a Negro. Touch a Negro! If you really want to prove how non-racist you are, how about you release a proper statement? Not that weak-ass statement that you guys released the other day. A real statement conceding to the fact that there may be some racism in the royal family. A family whose entire wealth is based on colonialism and people theft. A family whose crown jewels collection is comprised of diamonds stolen from India and South Africa. A family who married off cousins to maintain the purity of their bloodline. There may be just a little bit of racism in the family. Just a touch. I can't wait till Harry and Meghan's baby is born. I hope she's born with beautiful chocolate brown skin, brown eyes, 4C hair. In fact, no, I hope she's born with locks. I want her to have dreadlocks straight out the womb. Then we'll see how non-racist the royal family are.
Okay, so that is Gina Yashir. She's a comedian from the UK, and I'm gonna pretend like I knew who she was, but I just read it in the comment section because I didn't know who she was. My bad for not knowing who she was. But that joke was fun to me. She said she wanted to come straight out the room with dreadlocks, bro.
When she said, "Touch a Negro, touch a Negro."
Well, you got a pretty good British accent. She said, "Touch a Negro."
Touch a Negro.
Bro, and this is what they did, bro. They sent out, like, Prince William and his wife were out there in their long coats because it's cold still. But they brought out this black woman who didn't have on a coat, but she had on her print. And you know, it's like they went and got the blackest sister they could find, culturally speaking, and brought her out and took pictures. I'm like, well, that's racism right there. Like it's like, oh, I have a black friend. Look, I have a black assistant. Look, I have black servants. I couldn't possibly be racist because I have black servants. This man,
Black servants.
And she said, I want that baby to come out with dreadlocks straightway out the womb with the.
Yeah, I hate you too.
It's the perfect ending. It's the perfect ending. Now, one footnote. Let me show you how petty and how ridiculous CBS is, because instead of taking Sharon Osbourne off the show because of her stupidity from last week that we covered, they damn near canceled the whole show. They're holding off on shows pending an investigation. Investigation to what? Sharon Osbourne, she said what she said on air. She did what she did on air. Well, like, what do you got to do? Watch the video? You got to rewind the tape no, like I could play it for them right now. Like we already know who the culprit was, but James, instead of penalizing her, it looks like they might pull the whole show. It's ridiculous.
Of course, you know. Oh, I hate that. That annoys my soul. Instead of punishing the one that did it, they try to get everybody. So it seems like it's fair. Bump that, get who it is, kick their ass off the show, replace it with somebody else like y'all always do. There's always someone better. Yeah,
I used to practice. Somebody said they're laughing at our British accents, but I used to I'm a big fan. Can we keep Doctor Who and y'all get rid of the royal family? Because it's like there are some good things that come from the UK. Doctor Who is definitely like that's one of the best things that we get from the UK. But the colonizers, they need to go. So I used to practice my British accent because I always wanted to like do an impersonation of one of the doctors. But that's all I got. That's it. So anyway. I said share it. And okay, let's go to one next story. I want to talk about this very concerted effort by Republicans to reframe the next 4 years to be about nothing but the culture wars. I mentioned it earlier with Tim Scott saying that white supremacy is not as much of a problem as woke supremacy. Coining that phrase, woke supremacy. And of course, they would have a black man to go out there and coin that phrase so that now they have something that they can rally around. They being conservatives, being primarily white conservatives, they can rally around the idea that there is such thing as woke supremacy and that it is more of a threat to this country than white supremacy, when it wasn't woke supremacy that marched up the steps of the Capitol to overthrow this government. It was white supremacy. Last Thursday, Wisconsin Republican Senator Ron Johnson, who was up for re-election in 2022, went on the Joe Pog show. Don't know who that guy is, but it's a conservative radio show. And during his interview on the program, Senator Johnson was asked about his views on the January 6th Capitol Hill insurrection, the terrorist attack. His response was ridiculous. Let's take a listen into his response.
White supremacists, they don't really believe that, but they know there's a percentage of those that they're telling that will believe it. That's really the game, right? I mean, there's no way people that you go to work with every day really think that you and I are white supremacists because we believe in conservative values, right?
Well, no, and let's face it, I'm also criticized because I've made the comment that on January 6th, I never felt threatened, because I didn't. And mainly because I knew that even though those thousands of people there were marching to the Capitol were trying to pressure people like me to vote the way they wanted me to vote, I knew those are people that love this country, that truly respect law enforcement, would never do anything to break a law. And so I wasn't concerned. Now, had the tables been turned, and Joe, this got me in trouble. Had the tables been turned and President Trump won the election, and those were tens of thousands of Black Lives Matter and Antifa protesters, I might have been a little concerned.
Wow. That's a big statement, but it's a true statement. We see the recent history.
Well, and let's face it, people didn't board up their storefronts in metropolitan areas in case Joe Biden won. And now you take a look at what's happening in Minneapolis with the trial.
All right, let me put a fine point on what this man said. He said that the people who stormed the Capitol on January 6th, quote, love this country, truly respect law enforcement, as they actually try to kill law enforcement, but I digress, and would never do anything to break the law. They literally broke the windows of Congress. They broke laws, all the laws, but he completely ignored all of that. He ignored the fact that police were attacked. He ignored the fact that 5 people were killed. And during the interview, Johnson also called for states to sue in order to block H.R. 1, the voting rights legislation that also bears the late John Lewis's name, and empathize with Derek Chauvin, the police officer charged in the murder of George Floyd. James, you can't be more transparent than this. Because he said, I wasn't afraid. You know why he wasn't afraid? Because that was his cousins and them. He wasn't afraid because those were his people. He wasn't afraid because they are all white supremacists. And why would he have to be afraid? He's right. Why would he have to be afraid of people who are there to do his bidding? But instead, he was going to be afraid of Black Lives Matter. This has got to be the most transparent example of racism and white supremacy that I have ever seen, but yet they're stating it as if it was a virtue. They're stating it as if they're saying the host was like, oh, that's a big statement there, but it's definitely true. Right. I don't even know what to say other than I don't know what to say about this, man.
My face, man, because that
it's
y'all
just,
can see in the camera just what the hell?
Man.
Bruh, I don't keep conservative values. Oh, okay, you're white supremacy. Let's just say it. Let's just call it out. Your conservative values, white supremacy. Thanks.
Yeah, man. And this is the pinnacle, right? This is the transition that's happening in this country. We played a clip last week of Tucker Carlson as he was attacking the military, and now you have conservatives who are calling for half of the defense budget to be cut. All right, I'm going to parse something here, and I'm going to go into some topics that I haven't gone into in a long while. You also have people who claim to be leftists who are now declaring that Donald Trump is more progressive, not than Joe Biden, but more progressive than AOC and the squad, right? And what's happening has been happening. They've been trying to do this for years. What they're trying to do is make an alliance between the left and the right. And now they found the perfect way to do it. What they're trying to do, and I should have said, quote unquote, the left. What they're trying to do is to sacrifice. Actually, before, I got to set up one more thing. There's a video clip. I don't have it, but there's a clip of Marco Rubio joining in on this. And I'm going to talk about this in a minute with Mike Elks, because Marco Rubio is now attacking Amazon. And he's not attacking Amazon from the angle that you would expect. He's attacking Amazon on the side of labor, ostensibly. But the way he's attacking them is because he's calling them woke supremacists, calling Amazon, saying that Amazon is doing all this woke stuff, but they're hurting labor. Now, you gotta care. You gotta walk with me on this, because obviously Marco Rubio doesn't give a damn about labor, right? Marco Rubio is part and parcel of the right to work movement across this country. The state of Florida, it's a quote unquote right to work, which means that you could be fired for anything. They don't give a damn about the labor movement. All they really care about is how they can put a divide in the left of this country, how they could divide and conquer. And the way they're doing it is, oh yeah, no, we're totally against rich people now, so long as you guys don't bring us your wokeness. So long as you don't bring us your identity politics, and so long as you don't bring us anything that's going to help liberate people, right? So now you have big time, big name, quote unquote leftist journalists who are attacking the trans community, the bi community, right? And then simultaneously, Glenn Greenwald declaring that people like Donald Trump, or not Donald Trump, who did he say? He said Steve Bannon, right? Donald Trump's henchman, that he's a socialist, right? And so what they're doing is they're muddying the waters to try to convince as many people as possible that the right, that conservatism is exactly the right place for the leftist movement to be. It's completely asinine, but they have been trying to do this for years. For years, they've been trying to find a way to make an alliance between disillusioned leftists and Nazis on the right. You even got this super famous Tim Pool, this guy who's famous on YouTube, and now he has been a conservative who has consistently and relentlessly attacked Black lives, consistently and relentlessly done the bidding of corporations in the top 1%. This is the thing. Like, you got all of these Republicans now who are trying to use populist rhetoric to declare themselves to be on the side of working people. And what the left has to give up in exchange is the idea of liberation, the idea of quote unquote wokeness, the idea that we should be concerned about the identities of people because this country has attacked us specifically about our identities. I'm going to go into this a whole lot more. Because it is a concerted effort that's being pushed all around us. And it goes all the way back to Tim Scott. Tim Scott coining the phrase woke supremacy. And what we're going to see is people who are now willing to sacrifice the identity and the liberation of marginalized groups in exchange for right-leaning national socialists who declare that they are in favor of the working class, when in reality, all they've done is found a nice way for them to make you angry without you fighting for liberation anymore, without us fighting for on behalf of marginalized communities. If we are willing to give up our fight for immigrants, our fight for the LGBTQIA community, particularly the trans community, if we're willing to give up our fight for anyone's identity, fight for Black lives, if we are willing to give that up, then sure, Republicans say they'll write you a check. They'll give you a handout. All the while, they're going to continuously be doing the bidding of capitalism and imperialism in this country. When we come back, we'll be speaking with Mike Elk specifically about the labor movement and what's going on in Bessemer, Alabama, with Amazon. And we're going to contextualize it for this new move from Republicans who are trying to make it seem like they are on the side of working people. We'll be back with more Like It or Not after this.
You can't kill my confidence, I think I'm the man. Tally all the I ever gave on my head. Lately I've been living like I can't take a loss. They ain't wanna help me, that's what made me a boss. You can't kill my confidence, I think I'm the man. We don't give a
Shout out to everybody this morning that's checking this out, y'all. Make sure that y'all hit that like button, y'all. Comment, share, subscribe, so you know when Like It or Not is going down, y'all. Hope everybody is having a good morning so far. Trust me, it's only going to get better. It gets as good as you're going to. So control your own day.
For them feelings, I throw all my pain on percussion. This disgusting. I hear them bragging about that they did, and it do not move me, not in the least. They ain't been dropping no seeds in the soil, but swear that you almost spotted the feast. I've been on go mode, showboat, rowboat, wave ride. Cool shorty, too naughty, pool party, wet for the face ride. Annie up, penny down, hand me down, thrift store, old
Chuck Diesel, make sure that you move your furniture out the way, please.
I'm on they now, can't get a pass now. I'm a cash cow, keeping it brash now. It's trash now, I'm a spaz out. I've been killing my lows and living on highs. You see in the skies the proof. You can just see in my eyes that there is no lies. I cannot disguise the truth. I've been duck dog getting in my new merch, colored duck sauce on the new couch with my Chucks on. Get the on with that. I'm big cool on the small chat, cause I know now that
Nick, I like this one too.
Guy on the ball cat, get the out of my face.
Talking to my mirror like I love you so much. Curving on my critics like I heard you, so what? You can't kill my confidence, I think I'm the man. Tally all the I ever gave on my head. Lately I've been living like I can't take a loss. They ain't wanna help me, that's what made me a boss.
All right, Purple Rain Hearts, you better do that Cabbage Patch.
We don't give a that's what they don't understand.
First time I saw you, I knew all the time.
Truth the Dragon, you know I got you.
And in the way you
Susan, good morning.
I get nervous when you get close and my heart fills up with butterflies. And then
make sure I start y'all morning off right this morning.
My world turned upside down. Just say that you won't go and break my heart. Break my heart, don't break it now. Remember, it's the only one I've got. The one I've got. Don't break my heart. Don't break my heart.
Now I'm ready to go out to the club like for real, man. Seven, sweetheart, good morning.
Wanna tell you how I feel instead of keeping it all inside. So hard with you, I don't know why. Believe me,
Brenda
boy,
Johnson, good morning.
Try when you're near me. My heart fills up with butterflies, and then you leave me speechless. My world turned upside down. Just say that you won't go and
Ben, I heard that note, Ben.
Break my heart. Now. Remember, it's the only one I've got.
I like that.
One I've got. Don't break my heart. Don't break my heart.
Everybody got that one run they can do. That's it.
Don't break my heart.
Ooh, that's it.
Just say that you won't go and break my heart. Break my heart.
Oh man, yo.
Man, look, I got a little run. I can't now. Listen, I am no Rebecca Azor,
Right.
and I definitely won't sing on here for people to hear. I do it behind the scenes. But bro, did you see that Kirk Franklin video?
Yo,
I couldn't let the day go without talking about it.
Not wrong, dude. Kirk Franklin was not wrong. And then I heard he apologized. Man,
Yeah, no, he put
a
a video out apologizing. I saw him apologize before I even saw the video, right? Of
Really?
what his son put out, and then I went and saw what his son put out, and I don't know how light of it I'm gonna make, because I feel okay. First of all, if there's anybody who's gonna do some special pleading and make exceptions for anybody, it's gonna be me making exceptions for Kirk Franklin. Cause
Right.
man, I've been standing Kirk Franklin since hell I was 14. All right, so
Right.
I'm grown as 40 years old man, just 7 years older than his son, 33-year-old grown man. But I do feel some kind of, because I'm like, man, where do you have to be in your relationship with your kids to have to talk to them like that? Don't get me wrong. If I had to, I probably would too. But I just think of like, what? But see, here's the thing. Kirk, for people who don't know, Kirk Franklin is a gospel artist, right? And when we chop this video up, we'll put in all the things that we're referencing. He's a gospel artist, and his son put out a video this weekend. His oldest son, who's 33 years old, put out a video this weekend of Kirk just cussing him out like a dog. And there was one part of it that I was like, I got to sample it, because he was like, don't you ever, bruh, the ever was so sanctified and ratchet. It was like, it's simultaneously sanctified and ratchet. I'm like, oh, I don't ever want to mess with him. But what does it take for you to get to that place? And here's the thing, the bad thing about it is Kirk ain't going to put out all the details of what his son did to push him to that point.
Right.
He's not, right? He shouldn't. Kirk, don't. If you're thinking about it, don't do that, because that only makes it worse. But this leaves him looking like a verbally abusive parent, right? It leaves him looking like this is because obviously the way they talk to each other, this must be the nature of their relationship. And Kirk said as much. He said they had a toxic relationship and they're trying to get they were getting counseling. They even called the counselor to be on that call, but his son didn't share that part of it. But anyway, like I think people didn't realize that the gospel choir singer will cuss you out for filth. I'm sorry.
Hey,
all right.
Kirk turned into Plies,
bro. And then Plies. Hey, did you see Plies' tweet?
Yeah.
Plies was like, "That wasn't my dog. That was me. That was me."
I take full responsibility.
He's like, Plies voice up here. Hey, that wasn't Kirk. That was me.
No, baby.
But he showed transfer. All right. Let's bring. I'm gonna bring it in. I want to bring to the screen our first guest, who absolutely has nothing to say about Kirk Franklin, but has a lot to say about what's going on with labor movements across the country. His name is Mike.
Hey. I might have a lot to say about Kirk Franklin, but I got a lot to say about Kirk Flood. And Kirk Flood would have been in this kind of fight in Amazon, Alabama, because that's what he did.
Hey, man, listen, Mike. Hey, thanks so much for joining.
Hey, you want to talk about Kirk Flood? We can talk about Kirk Flood for a couple of hours. I mean, be careful what you wish for here, you know?
Hey, man, I'm trying to introduce you. Mike Elk is a labor journalist and founder of Payday Report, which covers labor in news deserts. Deserts. Before founding Payday Report, Mike spent years covering union organizing in the South for The Guardian. Mike, first and foremost, hey, thanks so much for joining me. How are you this morning, man?
I'm pretty good. How are you doing?
Hey, man, we're doing great. Listen, I want to talk to you specifically about. We're going to start in Alabama, Bessemer, Alabama. You've been covering that in great detail. Can you give us an update of where that process is and some of the political implications around it?
Well, it's a major moment. I mean, it's like a Selma type moment, in my opinion. I certainly think Terry Sewell sees it that way. And what's been happening there is they've been trying to organize a union there for about a year. The plant opened, not a plant, it's a warehouse. I keep calling it a plant, but it's a warehouse. It opened about a year ago. It's a majority black female workforce. And it's about 85% black, the entire plant. And they're going to have a union vote there. And what's happened is that Amazon has fought back in all these wild ways that you see union busters do all the time. They hold these incredibly manipulative meetings with people where they say, oh, hey, you vote for a union, the plant might close. You might lose your job, buddy, but look, open door here. You can walk in the door any day with me, And that's a lot of what's going on right now. They hold these meetings, and I've seen these meetings. I've been in these meetings where they say, they bring in these guys. What's incredible, I think, about this story is that the majority of the management at that Amazon plant in Alabama is white. Majority. It's 85% black workforce. It's not a culturally competent management in any way, but they decided, if we're going to bust the union, we're going to bring in black union busters. We're going to bring in corporate lawyers from Morehouse to do this. And that's what they're doing.
That the divide and conquer tactic is a pretty standard move in union busting. And in one of your recent reports, you published a piece called "Amazon Offers 2,000 Resignation Bonuses to Bust Union Drive in Alabama." Tell me about that particular technique that they're trying to use.
Well, let's think about it this way. There's a lot to unpack here, but imagine the job at Amazon for Birmingham. Isn't that bad of a job? They call Birmingham the Pittsburgh of the South. I live in Pittsburgh, and when I went down there to Birmingham, I was like, wow, unions are a lot like us. I mean, you're, Southern Appalachians, we're at the northern tip of Appalachia. And those folks down there, the starting wage there is about $16.20 an hour with crappy HMO health insurance, but it's something,
Right.
The average Amazon picker, this is someone who moves around, equipment all day in a warehouse. Average Amazon picker walks 12 miles a day.
Wow.
So if you're a young guy, particularly, you're a young black guy right out of high school, you didn't go to college or anything like that, you can go out to Amazon and get a pretty flexible job, making about $16.20 an hour, and then overtime. So you can easily be working as a picker and make $40, $50K a year. That's not tough. And for a lot of folks, getting that kind of job, it changes their life, as you can imagine.
Right.
The minimum wage in Birmingham is what, $7.25. The city of Birmingham has tried to pass an increased minimum wage, and then the state overrode it. And so, yeah, it's a very, very good job. And so what they go around to guys and they start saying things, and I've heard this a million times. What they say is, if we get a union contract, some people might do better, but you might do worse, because when we get a union contract, we start all over. It's BS, because under federal labor law, if you unionize, you can't decrease someone's salary unless you can prove you did it for economic reasons.
Right.
So they pull this whole manipulative game and they say, hey, look, buddy, my door is always open. Give me another, come in, you talk to me anytime you want to talk to me. I'll give you a raise. You bring in the union, though. Hey, look, we heard you. And I know Ann Feeney, my friend Ann Feeney, the folk singer, compared what management does in these situations to how manipulative men that are abusive to their wives say, hey, come back, give me another chance. Yeah. And that's what Amazon is pulling right now.
That's actually a great analogy, and we actually use that analog between politics and relationships on this show a lot. And so I think that is a perfect way to describe it. My question then would be, why do we even go through these games, Mike? Right? Because we know at the end of the day, people need to unionize. Generally speaking, without the propaganda from corporations, people want to unionize because they understand the value of it. But why does the federal government force, why don't we just have unions as a standard in this country versus all the games that have to be played, this song and dance where you're pitting the people against corporations that have unlimited amounts of money to crush unions?
Well, I think, look, I'm a Bernie guy like you are. And I think Biden will change the game on this, in my opinion. I've never seen anything like it in my entire career. You're in these incredibly manipulative meetings where, you're a kid out of high school, you're overmatched against some corporate lawyer, and the corporate lawyer is saying like, oh, didn't you see this case of corruption in your union? And like, yeah, corruption does happen in the union, right? And they'll start saying this stuff. And now what folks are just saying to shut it down is just, Joe Biden said this meeting shouldn't happen. We're not going to get into tit for tat here. We're not going to, because it's disinformation is what they're doing, right?
Right.
We're not going to get into tit for tat here. Joe Biden said this meeting shouldn't happen. Uncle Joe.
Yeah.
And that's a district there that voted 72% for Biden. That is his base.
Yeah.
Those are folks that just. So instead of being like, because what they so often do in union busting is they paint the people that are the union. Often they do a divide between the young and the old, right?
Right.
Particularly in a physically demanding workplace like that, they do a big divide between the young and the old. And so what's happening now is that they'll always say, oh, well, the unions can be led by the troublemakers. The unions can be led by the people that are, not the good people here, right? You're a young person, you're working a job, you're making decent money, not bad. You don't want to screw that up, and you don't know what to believe. And now, I think the really, really big thing that's the game changer here is that BLM, in terms of national BLM groups, have invested an incredible amount of money in organizing this place. There's a guy there. He's one of the founders of BLM in Birmingham, a guy named Eric Hall. We've been on the phone a lot. He's the chair of Our Revolution there. And they're running radio ads. And so they're able to come in the door and say, hey, because look, for somebody that doesn't know anything about unions, this could all be terribly confusing, don't you think?
Yeah.
They're able to come in the door and say, this is a racial justice struggle. What we're doing here. And Terry Swoole, she's a corporate Dem. She's a corporate Dem congresswoman there. I was talking to somebody on the phone the other day, and they said, Mike, didn't you really pick up on why Cori Bush and Jamal Bellman went down there with Terry Swoole? Which is that Terry Swoole's worried about getting primaried from the left. She's worried about it. And so she's from Selma, and they're taking this on. I think the administration is taking this on as a Selma moment. They might lose narrowly, but it will make the case for the PRO Act.
Right.
And Joe Biden, we can say a lot of criticisms of Joe Biden. We've had so many Southern Democrats as president. Joe Biden was the first president we've had ever, because FDR helped create unions. He was, JFK was from the Northeast, but he was a rich kid. But Biden was the first guy. He grew up in a steelworker coal mining town in Scranton. He grew up around unions all his life. And when I deal with the Biden people, they're not best on everything, but they understand unions, if that makes much sense.
No, that does. And
it's not like you got to walk in the door with them and be like, this is what a union is.
And that's a huge. I mean, even the statement that he put out in favor of union organizing. I mean, that was a big help. And I think it's important for us to engage in good faith with the Biden administration and give them their props when they do something that is good. But I want to ask you about one other thing before we get out of here. There is a language shift that's happening on the right, and they are starting to position themselves as if they are the party for and the ideology for working people. And specifically, I want to bring up Marco Rubio. There was a clip over the weekend of Marco Rubio making it seem as though he was coming down on the side of the organizers, the union organizers in Bessemer, Alabama. But he positioned it really in a strange way. I don't know if you saw the clip where
I saw it.
He attacked Amazon for their wokeness and their corporatized identity politics, right? It's a very unique position, but I think it's very strategic because at the same time, over the weekend, I saw someone from the left, and I won't mention their names because they're a small account, but for the first time, I saw someone from the quote unquote left attacking the PRO Act as a tool that is anti-worker because people unionizing, this is the argument, people who unionize actually get benefits that separate them from the working class. Now, this is convoluted on all sorts of levels. But when I did the math, man, there is on the right a concerted effort to try to relabel themselves as the working class party, right? And then on the left, you have a small faction that is trying to separate us from things that we know are good, which are unions. No matter how problematic some of them may have been, we know that we need unions. I just kind of wonder what you thought about that clip from Marco Rubio and all of these. All the games that are being played to try to mess up the alignment.
Well, I'll say this. It was a brilliant political move by Marco Rubio if he wants to run for president in 2024, which is what he's talking about. There's so many layers to that. I was talking to a friend of mine, not quite a friend, but a union buster who lives in Florida. And here's the thing, 45% of union members are Republicans, right? So you have generations of folks who benefit from union contracts, particularly in Florida. You have like construction union retirees from Jersey that moved down there, right? So Marco Rubio, he knows that crowd, but this is what's really, really funny is I started, reading this op-ed and I started researching Rubio. In 1984, there was a massive hotel strike in Las Vegas. The Culinary Union called it. Marco Rubio's dad was a bartender. Marco Rubio claims, I don't know if it's true, but he claims this in his autobiography, that his dad crossed the picket line and that he called his dad a scab repeatedly. No, I mean, isn't that kind of, there's just so much to unpack here. I don't even know what to make of it all. Because Rubio knows that, look, you want to run in a primary, you can go up to the Northeast, you can talk that union talk. And I mean, here's the other thing. Look, the PRO Act just passed. There was one Democrat who voted against it, Henry Seliar. The leading Democrat, who I know, I played ball against him as a kid, was Connor Lamb. He led the fight to help bring it in. Connor Lamb is about as blue dog as you can get. But when I was out covering Connor's first campaign, when he won in that Trump plus 14 district, he'd go out to Western PA, he'd go out to those kind of coal miner types. Western PA, when you get into coal country, similar to Northern Alabama in many ways. When I went down there and they called it Pittsburgh the South, I was like, oh yeah, I get it, And what Connor did is he'd go out there and he'd say, the Republican running against me, he's for a right to work. And we would go out and we would tell this to like old union coal mine retirees, and they'd be like, he's for right to work, he's going to eliminate the minimum wage. I'm like, that's not technically what right to work means, but there's such messaging around it. And so when Connor Lamb, who attacks AOC, who goes after her all the time, is on the floor of the House fighting for the PRO Act, that tells you something about the popularity of it. You get what I mean?
Yeah.
And everybody, I mean, think about this. Bernie Sanders, Marco Rubio, and Joe Biden are united on one issue, which is organizing Amazon. From different places, but I'll take it. Won't you?
So I mean, yeah, I'll take it. But my concern is that the attempt for a realignment and the willingness of some of our comrades to buy into it, because like you said, it's a brilliant move that Marco Rubio did. I agree. It was brilliant, but it's brilliant in an insidious way because he's literally going to undermine unions. He literally is fighting on behalf of the top 1% of corporations. But if he can do it and couch it in populist language, exactly. And so
Josh Hawley's totally discredited at this point, right? I was talking with Santelli about this the other day. Josh Hawley's so discredited, and now Marco Rubio has that lane. It wouldn't surprise me, and I was talking with some others later, it wouldn't surprise me if Mitt Romney comes out for the union drive there. There's a whole lane. Like, think about Marco Rubio, right? He's from Florida. He can go get those Florida votes in the primary, but he's got to go up to the Northeast. He's got to go around to the Connor Lamb voters. He knows how to talk to them, because I know the Connor Lamb voters, and they're kind of conservative Democrats who I don't agree with them, but they really like unions a lot. And so Marco Rubio knows that he knows this personally, because in the story in the LA Times I read, he talks about making protest signs during the strike in 84 and calling his dad a scab. And I'm like, when I read that, I was like, this is just wow. Marco Rubio claims in his autobiography he called his dad a scab once. I mean, they're just, he gets it on a deep personal level. It's cynical, but it's brilliant, if he wants to try to win that primary.
it's going to be fascinating to watch it play out. We're going to have to continue this conversation as we go. Mike Elk, man, thank you so
Sounds
much
good.
for joining me this morning.
Thanks for having us on.
Pleasure is mine. When we come back, we have more Like It or Not. James, take us to a quick break. We'll be back after this.
Shout out to Mike Elk. Thank you so much for joining us this morning. Sir, great interview. So now what are we going to do? Going to get y'all in the little Motown, or what we like to call independent Motown.
Cause you turn me on to my heart's desire. Now I'm dying to let you know what I feel is some kind of wonderful, some kind of magical woman. My love's for real. I need to show you right now. Take a look at
this makes me want to go put on a show.
I can't explain what life with me, what you did.
Y'all know how the Temptations used to do back in the day. Don't act like y'all don't know. Shout out to everybody this morning, y'all. Make sure that y'all hit that like button, hit that like button, hit that like button. Welcome back to the screen, Benjamin Dixon.
It's like I've been waiting
Shoo-wop-shoo-wopping.
Hey, the way I just brought you on, I felt like I'm like, man, Ben need to do a performance. He's like,
hey, man, hey, we'll do it. Oh, man, welcome back to Like It or Not, where we're free to tell the truth and not care who doesn't like it. I want to talk about our sister, Breonna Taylor. And it's been a year, and it has been so troubling to see this story unfold, and to see the games and the manipulations that have been played, particularly as it pertains to the justification of her murder, the fact that we're still waiting and fighting for justice. On Saturday in downtown Louisville and across the country, marchers and protesters marked 1 year since the tragic murder of Breonna Taylor. She was killed exactly 1 year ago on Saturday when Louisville police officers raided her apartment and killed her in her sleep. Her death last year, along with that of George Floyd and so many others, sparked the Black Lives Matter protests that ripped through the country last summer. The familiar chant of "Say Her Name" filled Jefferson Square Park in Louisville, where many of Breonna Taylor's family members and activists gathered to memorialize her and push for justice. I just want us to take a minute and listen to some of Sadiqa Reynolds, president of the Louisville Urban League their speech at Jefferson Square Park.
And when I woke up this morning, I thought about how blessed I am.
Oh my God.
Because I didn't wake up on the first anniversary of the death of my child. Louisville, Kentucky. If you have never waken up on the first anniversary of the death of your daughter, you have no idea what Tamika Palmer is going through.
Now, Kenneth Walker, Breonna Taylor's boyfriend, had the charges against him permanently dismissed. He also spoke at the event on Saturday, and he thanked the crowd for their support and urged them to continue to fight for the movement. James, the thing about this is is that while there were no charges brought literally on behalf of Breonna Taylor, they tried to charge her boyfriend, and they had to go through the entire process of having the charges dismissed. And it is another example of how justice in this system, in this country, is rooted in not our humanity, but in the system, right? And what I mean by that is he had a human right to defend himself against that home invasion.
Yep.
But they charged him. The police officers had no right because they were at the wrong damn house. No knock warrant. But they would not charge that officer specifically for the murder of Breonna Taylor. I think they charged him with wanton endangerment because a bullet flew through somebody else's apartment.
Yep.
That just shows you how much justice really doesn't mean in this country.
You know, a whole year later, and still nothing's done. It just goes to show you that this justice system is totally against us.
Yeah.
Because this is somebody that was innocent. He was protecting his domicile. Yeah. And you shot through this house like with no regard for anything. Yeah. So it's, you know, you kind of question, you hope something will happen and we get that justice. But hey, protest, get it done. Because let's not be quiet on this. The justice needs to be served.
And let me tell you something, man. This past summer was the moment. Because it wasn't just black folks out there protesting. Mm-hmm. It was your white soccer moms were out there protesting.
Yep.
Right? They had enough too. And there were, you know, the white soccer moms got really familiar with how this police state actually works, because I'll never forget that one particular sister in Seattle, white woman, who had on her pink bicycle helmet, and she was being swarmed and attacked by the police because she was there on behalf of Black lives. And what troubles me about that moment was the absence of some of the people who be online shouting about revolution all the damn time. Black lives aligned with soccer moms to challenge this police state on behalf and to challenge white supremacy. And the thing is, like, there's literally like there's like one step. All you got to do is from white supremacy to capitalism, there's like just turn that much, and you can make the argument. You can show people that this white supremacist police state is a byproduct of capitalism. This is how it protects itself. But all the people who were online shouting revolution, at that point, they were talking about cancel culture. And so for me, it was my own personal awakening to realize, oh, some of these people ain't really about this revolution. Some of these people, when it came down time for us to actually be about it, because if you add on top of the fact that it wasn't just George Floyd that we protested for, it wasn't just Breonna Taylor, we were also protesting against the police state and the militarized state that Donald Trump was wielding out like he didn't care. Like he was pushing and tear gassing and flashbanging protesters in order so that he can go do a picture with his generals, right? And so it was the exact moment that folks had been waiting on in order to challenge this system at a meaningful level. And people who are talking about revolution right now, people who are talking about force to vote, and all people who are talking about all that stuff, they were nowhere to be found. Right. People who are making league with right-wing, Glenn Greenwald, I'm gonna call him out as much as I need to. He was talking about cancel culture, fighting on behalf of the white woman from the New York Times, right? At that moment, when we had an opportunity to unify the righteous indignation of black folks, white folks, and everybody who realized that this police state is not only oppressive, but destructive, folks are worried about cancel culture. And those are the same folks right now who are trying to make league with right-wing. And while I'm doing my best to stay out of that particular fight, I don't think I can, because it represents to me how commodified the ideal revolution is in this country. In other words, people can make money off of it, but when it comes down time for it, they're nowhere to be found. All right, take me to a quick break. When we come back, we'll be joined by David Sirota. We got a whole lot more to talk about, more like it or not, right after this.
Michael, good morning. Y'all make sure that y'all hit that like button. Y'all hit that like button, wherever platform you're on. Make sure you hit the like button. Y'all subscribe, comment, share. You know when Like It or Not is going down.
That will make you a winner. I don't believe what I see. Are you wearing gold? You're nothing more than silverware.
Try not to sing, y'all. Try not to. Listen to this music too much.
Walk around like everything belongs to you. Talk to me like I'm the young stupid fool. Take off all your clothes.
Daniel, I don't. We're working on getting it where the tracks will appear soon on screen so we can get track names going.
Why you show off your money? Wave it like it's a tissue.
Justice, I appreciate that.
I'm not falling for bullshit. If you like me, then say it. You don't get that I see through this facade that surrounds you. Growing up takes time, so don't you waste mine. You and me ain't right. Are you wearing gold? You're nothing more than silverware. Thinking you're so bold, but all you are is unaware. Walk around like everything belongs to you. Talk to me like I'm a young stupid fool. Take off all your clothes. You're nothing more than silverware. Wherever you are, you still feel alone.
Nestor Gonzalez, yes. Some of these independent artists should really be getting some recognition, a lot of recognition.
Stuck in your head, saying can't find a way out, way out. Don't close your eyes, 'cause we are not alright, alright. Stuck in your head, saying can't find a way out, way out. Don't close your eyes, 'cause we are not alright. In the midst of madness, we seek to find the end of the rainbow. Slowly moving towards the life we first intend. Oh yeah. Don't let them get in your head. Don't let them win. No.
From where I'm standing, this vote. This is Like It or Not, where you're free to enjoy it and not care who doesn't like it. Right, Ben? Did I say that right? No? Cool. Welcome back to the screen. My brother from another mother. Y'all know when Rebecca's not here. Y'all know we cut up, so don't act like y'all don't know y'all. Benjamin Dixon, y'all.
Welcome back to Like It or Not, where we're free to tell the truth, James, and not care who doesn't like it. Joining me now is There it is. Joining me now is David Sirota. He's a journalist, columnist, editor, and former Bernie Sanders speechwriter and senior advisor, as well as the founder of the Daily Poster, a grassroots-funded investigative journalism project that covers politics, business, and corporate power. David, thanks so much for joining me. How are you today?
I'm good. Thanks for having me.
Pleasure is ours. Listen, I'm kind of glad that we were not able to connect on Friday, because over the weekend you published an article, The American Rescue Plan's Money Cannon is Great, but Not Enough. And you went through the good and the bad and the ugly of this particular policy, of this legislation. And I actually appreciate how you contextualized it in terms of giving credit where credit is due, but not overstating it. Tell us about that particular article as well as your analysis.
Sure. I think the stimulus bill, the American Rescue Plan, it's indisputable from my perspective that the spending in the bill is really important. That the part of the bill that that spends money on programs that exist, on unemployment insurance, a new child tax credit, all of that is important. It's necessary. It's good. It's direct aid to people. I think I read a stat that about 40 to 45% of the entire bill is just cash out the door to regular people. There's another portion of the bill that goes to state and local governments, also important. So I think overall, the spending of the bill is really important, and it represents a victory over the austerity ideology that has dominated politics for the last 30 to 40 years, which is to say that kind of idea that we can't spend money to help people, that we have to only first and foremost think of the deficit and the national debt in conventional ways, that this bill, a $1.9 trillion bill, I think represents a victory over that really bad ideology. By the way, a much bigger victory than the Obama stimulus bill 11 or 12 years ago. That was $787 billion. That was too small for the economic crisis we were facing then. And ultimately, it helped deliver the weakest economic recovery in the post-World War II era. I think this bill, when it comes to spending, is much bigger, much more up to the task, much more adequate and appropriate to the situation. So that's the good. The bad is that the bill did not include much of anything to begin fundamentally restructuring the economy to make the economy as a whole more fair. Also, the spending in the bill, at least for now, is temporary. So it's a one-shot, for now, bridge through the crisis. Again, extremely important, but it's not permanent spending to permanently help lift people out of poverty. And again, the bill did not include things like the minimum wage increase, or tax reform, to begin making the economy itself more fair. And then the ugly is that the bill included some spending that will actually make it harder to reform the healthcare system. Instead of putting a public health insurance option into this bill, a public health insurance option was promised by Joe Biden. It was promised by every Senate candidate running for Senate in 2020. Instead of putting that in there to start restructuring the healthcare economy, the bill spends about $40 or $50 billion to simply subsidize people to get private health insurance on the ACA exchanges. So essentially fortifying and strengthening the private insurance industry, an industry that those exchanges, by the way, we have seen insurance companies deny 1 out of every 6 claims, medical claims, when you're on an ACA exchange. The ACA private insurance plans are marked by higher and higher out-of-pocket costs for people who are being covered. Is coverage better than nothing? Sure. Could the bill have included a public health insurance option or extended Medicaid or Medicare? And it didn't? Yeah, right. It did not. It excluded those things. It put into the bill the lobbyists' plan, and we reported that at the Daily Poster, that literally healthcare lobbyists put together this plan. This was their proposal, and that was put into the rescue plan. And again, it strengthens the power of the private insurance industry. And I would argue politically makes it harder to argue now, moving forward. Now we have to do Medicare for all or a public option or something that's much better.
Right. All right. So let's unpack it a little bit. Actually, before we unpack it, let's talk about the politics of it. Right. Let's talk about the machinations that were necessary, the reconciliation in order to make it happen, particularly as it pertains to anything else. Right. We aren't going to get the help of Republicans on anything that is meaningful. And so the question now becomes, moving forward for any legislation, is the Biden administration going to be willing to address the filibuster, or are we going to now be pigeonholed to only being able to use the same technique when we have the opportunity to present itself? What do you think about that?
Well, that's a really good question. And that's why it's so important. That's why it was so important to try to put some of these things that I just talked about in this bill, right? I mean, I've heard some people say, well, why do you need a minimum wage increase in the American Rescue Plan? Why do you need a public health insurance option in the American Rescue Plan? They can do that later. Now, first and foremost, I would argue that healthcare reform and raising the minimum wage is actually important to rescue people right now. It is a short term, but what was it that half of people who work in minimum wage jobs, those are jobs that are considered essential for the country, essential for getting through the pandemic. But even if you accept the notion, okay, listen, somehow the minimum wage or the public health insurance option don't need to be in this particular bill because they're not necessarily part of short-term stimulus. The problem with that argument is that this bill was brought up under the reconciliation process, and under existing Senate rules, as you allude to, the reconciliation process, which can only be used in very limited cases, but the reconciliation process allows legislation to pass through the Senate on a simple majority vote. So the point, in just the straight up political point, in terms of the Senate rules of adding something like the minimum wage or a public health insurance option to this bill, was that this was one of the only bills under existing Senate rules that could pass with only 51 Senate votes. So anything that's not in this bill under existing Senate rules and outside of another reconciliation process, which for sure could happen in 1 year from now, in the next congressional year. But anything other than that has to basically typically face a 60 Senate threshold, a 60 vote Senate threshold, which is the filibuster. So there's this, we'll put a standalone minimum wage bill on the floor, next week. Well, the Republicans have enough votes to filibuster. So that's a long way of saying, if you do not get rid of the filibuster, then anything that wasn't in the American Rescue Plan faces a much more difficult path to ever seeing the light of day. Biden has, up until now, said he does not support necessarily reforming the filibuster, but he's starting to change that. I saw a comment, I think yesterday, his chief of staff on, I think it was Mehdi Hassan's show, started alluding to the idea that Biden maybe doesn't want filibuster reform, but wouldn't necessarily stand in its way. Now you have Joe Manchin, who has said he would never support getting rid of the filibuster. Now he's at least saying that maybe they could tweak the filibuster to require it to be what's known as a talking filibuster. Right now, there's not just a filibuster. The filibuster is made easy. Any senator can just sort of say, hey, I'm holding up this bill, and I don't really have to do much of anything other than say I'm holding up this bill. Manchin's talking about bringing back the old talking filibuster where, in the days of old, if you wanted to filibuster a bill, you had to stand on the floor of the Senate for hours and hours and hours to try to stop the bill. So there are potential ways to reform the filibuster that could break this logjam.
Yeah. And I'm thinking it's I watched that clip. It was Mehdi Hassan and Biden's chief of staff. And it was as it pertained to HR1, the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. They have when I say they, Joe Biden has a real problem ahead of him, right? Yeah. Because there's an all out assault against voting rights across this country. But also there is a very clear demand from Black people in particular to protect our voting rights. And so do you think by them positioning themselves, and Joe Manchin understands that he's going to be on the wrong side of that argument too, which is why I think he's trying to find a way to prevaricate there. But do you think turning the filibuster into a talking filibuster, meaning that they actually have to stand there and filibuster like they used to versus just putting a hold on legislation, do you think that's going to be sufficient enough to get major legislation through, like the John Lewis Voting Act?
It's a good question. I really don't know. I mean, I think that it's hard for me to see a way that something like the voting rights initiatives pass through the Senate without a true reform of the filibuster, not just sort of making it a little bit harder. I mean, certainly making it harder to filibuster would be good. All of these steps would be good. But it's hard for me to see a full way around this unless they change the rules of the Senate. And look, right. I do think that, the concern about getting rid of the filibuster is what happens when Mitch McConnell is Senate Majority Leader again. What would the Republicans do without a filibuster? And I think we know what they would do. I mean, they would pack the courts. They would do all the things that we know that they would do. So is there a concern that if you create this power, somebody's going to use this power for really evil things? Yes, there is. But I think that the idea that the American government can't respond to things anymore because it allows a tyranny of the minority in the U.S. Senate, meaning the minority party, right? That basically 41 senators can stop anything. I mean, that is not good for American governance. I mean, I think there was a stat a couple of years ago that right now, for people to understand just how unbelievable the filibuster is, right? The Senate is an undemocratic institution unto itself, right? Wyoming has as many Senate votes as California. So fundamentally undemocratic institution. And then you add to the filibuster for it. And it's basically that one way I calculated it is 41 Senate votes representing 11% of the population can stop anything. So 11% of the people's representatives in the Senate have enough Senate power to stop anything they want. That's way beyond being like undemocratic. That's basically autocratic, right? That's not even close. And I know we don't live in a direct democracy, but that doesn't respect the democratic foundations of living in a republic.
Right. And so the some of the problems, and I hear you alluding to them, is the fact that there's the fear, obviously, of what Republicans will do, but then we've also seen what Republicans do anyway, even with the filibuster, right? They still have, and because I think I can summarize what I'm thinking right here, and I would like for you to address it. Republicans have power because they're absolutists and they don't give an inch. Right? They understand the power of moving as a political bloc when they're in the majority and when they're in the minority. And yet we still have Democrats who become stumbling blocks. Manchin, Sinema come to mind, right? There's more. You had the 8 that voted against the $15 an hour minimum wage. Why is it that the Democratic Party is incapable of moving as a bloc in a solidified way to get done what they need to get done, whether they're in the majority or the minority, and Republicans have been able to forward their agenda nonstop, relentlessly, regardless of if they're in the majority or the minority?
Well, I think it's because the Democratic Party is frankly a bigger tent, if you will. I think that the party, its ideological foundation is a much broader ideological foundation than the Republicans. I mean, the Republicans have essentially purged themselves of so-called moderates. They've purged the party of anybody who doesn't adhere to that right-wing political ideology. The Democratic Party is a much more diverse party, ideologically diverse, demographically diverse, and there's a lot of upsides to that. The downside is that when the party needs to behave, as you say, when the party needs to behave as a bloc, it becomes more difficult. I do think what's disturbing. Let's go back to the $8 minimum wage, or excuse me, the eight senators who voted against the $15 minimum wage. What's disturbing is what the party cannot behave as a fully unified bloc on. There are certain things. So like the fact that there were 8 Senate Democrats to vote against something that should be as foundational as raising the minimum wage, that really signals it's not just an ideological diversity, that there is potentially a ideological division in a sense that's problematic. Will that division exist when it comes to voting rights? I don't know. I think you're going to see some of these senators that you mentioned, Joe Manchin, maybe Kristen Sinema, try to separate their views on the filibuster from their views on the specific issues. But those things are inseparable, right? Like there's going to be an effort to say, look, I support the voting rights stuff, but I support necessarily fully getting rid of the filibuster because I believe in the so-called the institution. And I think what I'm trying to get at here is that ultimately you cannot separate those things, right? That those things are all connected. You cannot support an undemocratic institution that will not allow things to move forward and then pretend that you care about the specific things that need to move forward. You cannot say, I support a minimum wage, I support voting rights, I support all of these other progressive priorities, but I also support fortifying and keeping in place the barrier to any of those things happening, right? That is in fundamental conflict. And ultimately, these senators are going to have to choose. It's the old saying from organized labor. They're going to have to choose which side they are on.
Absolutely. David Sirota, journalist, columnist, and founder of the Daily Poster. Thank you so much for joining me today.
Thank you. Thanks for having me anytime.
Pleasure's ours. James, I was going to say take us to a break, but I mean, we're at the end of the hour, man. What you got? What you got for me over there? We got some jams for us to take us out for the rest of the day?
Oh yeah, man, I do, man. Did you watch the Grammys?
I didn't. No. But shout out. Of course, I follow Megan Thee Stallion, so shout out to her for getting that Best New Artist, right? Artist of the Year.
Yeah, Best New Artist.
Shout out to Nas. Nas got one for the first time.
Record of the Year. Yep, Nas got one. Beyonce, my queen, she got her 28th Grammy, making her the all-time winningest Grammy winner ever.
Wow.
Yeah. The Queen graced the television last night. So it was a great Sunday night.
I like to joke about a whole lot of stuff, but one thing I can't afford to joke about, because we don't have time to handle the Beehive, I would never make a joke about Beyonce.
What's hilarious, Ben, is I was having a conversation with somebody last night, and they were like, they're going to get on the show, and in the comments, they're going to say something bad about Beyonce. I'm like, don't you come on this good show and
don't y'all do that. Y'all
not bees swerving around here.
Don't y'all do that. No, we got enough fights. We got enough battles. I'm trying to stay out of some of these fights, so don't y'all bring. Now I do anyway. I was gonna talk about another hive, not the Beehive. I don't care about the other hives, but anyway, I digress. Hey, David Sirota, thanks so much for joining us today. Mike Elk, thanks so much for joining us. Rebecca will be back on Wednesday. Tomorrow we have an amazing lineup of guests. James, I'm turning it over to you, brother. Take it away.
Yes, sir, Benjamin. Have a good day, sir. As usual. Okay.
Just another sunny day in Southern California. It's where the people came to play. Don't let them transform you. Come and see what you've been missing on a little slice of heaven.
Yes, Rihanna Navy. Fan of Rihanna too. All right, y'all. I'm gonna take y'all till 10:30. So we got 5 minutes. I get a lot played in 5 minutes. Let's see what we can do.
It's been turning kind of gray in Southern California, but I'm allergic to the rain. What happened to euphoria? Oh.
Make sure that you hit that like button before you leave out. Make sure you hit that like button before you leave out. And go ahead and subscribe so you know when Like It or Not is going down, y'all.
It's all or nothing. Know all the signs and socialize. Come and see what you've been missing on a little slice of heaven. It's the only place we're living. It's the
Terry Stacy, you're quite welcome.
It's Friday night and you are beautiful. Feeling is magic. I am so lucky to be.
Nick, I got you, Nick.
Cause when it's been a rough day and I stare at the walls surrounding me, I let go of my thoughts and I go with you. You're a believer in a life that's less dramatic. You're a believer in a world that's filled with magic. Let's go dancing till the sun comes up again. So many roads, so many avenues. Oh, where they take us, such a thrill to ride with you.
Bye, Mama, love you.
Cause when it's been a rough day and I stare at the walls surrounding me, I let go of my thoughts and I go with you. You're a believer in a life that's less dramatic. You're a believer in a world that's filled with magic. And that's why I love you. Let's go dancing.
Whoa, clear out the room, I'm coming through. They wanna see what I'm about. Yeah, I got skills, do it for the thrill.
Justice, you too, thank you so much.
Extra, read about it. I'm today's trending topic. I put commas over bullshit. Yeah, I put that on mamas. They tryna block all my blessings. They thought I lost the snapping. I bet on me and my team. ISO is what I'm rapping. Put on for the whole city. Yeah, I got them rocking with me. I bet on me and my team. ISO is what I'm rapping.
Sending emojis, I'm blowing a pack of that OG. Don't be acting like you know me, and if you did, that's the old me. Winter time, rock a cold fleece, pocket fat, that's obese. Only talking money if it's increased. She give me brain, girl, no teeth. I touch down, bust down. She busted open for a real day. Stay timed up, trying to build it up, trying to count it up.
Susan Bradley,
win no no. And
love you too. Thank you so much.
Chase a dream, that's a meal ticket. ISO gang, yeah, they still with it. I put it in motion, they got me steady. Thoughts on my mind, it's weighing heavy. Watch how I shine, tell them I'm ready. I'm hitting my stride, let's get to the Fetty. I was just sitting back watching them fold. Racks on me now, yeah, it's looking slow. I hold it down and I got my own. Keeping it grown, we back to the bone. Yeah, flying flashy, ayy, ayy. We too fancy, ayy.
Nick, I told you I got you.
Ayy, right up your alley. Wait, I gotta play it safe. Watch me isolate, watch me isolate. Ayy, watch me isolate. Whoa, clear out the room, I'm coming through. They wanna see what I'm about. Yeah, I got skills, do it for the thrill. I'm on a paper route. Extra, read about it. I'm today's trending topic. I put commas over bullshit. Yeah, I put that on mamas. They tryna block all my blessings. They thought I lost the snapping. I bet on me and my team. ISO is what I'm rapping. Put on for the whole city. Yeah, I got 'em rockin' with me. I bet on me and my team. ISO is what I'm rapping.
3 happy meals for the road. My oldest like counting racks. My middle one, she's in a dirt bike. My youngest is just like a mama. Your mama loves me and I love her, so if she wants something, it's never a bother. 3 little ladies, my babies, and 1 on the way. Now I'm stressing my mama. And don't try to play around, don't try to play with them unless you're looking for problems. So don't try to play around, don't try to play with them. My brother's out with the drama. 4 to 5 nights on the road, counting the days and I'm home. I could do show after show, but nothing is better than home. Driving through nights I'm alone, counting the days till I'm home. I've been on road, I'm on go, but nothing is better than home. Clicking my heels like I'm Dorothy. I need new hobbies, it's boring me. Play all my kids and it's water me. I see new loafers, I'm ordering. I just bought socks and stocks. I feel on top to top. Shipping a pop by pop. Still young in my 20s, I celebrate. This one for the dads, let me dedicate. Head of the house like a head of state. Bring home the cash in the dinner place. I go, I zoom, accelerate. I cannot be bought at some bargain rate. I got on my back and my body weight. I stay in the crib like a quarantine. I stay in the crib and I isolate.
You can't have it just because you want it. Remember you're dealing with me. Walking and I'm moving like I got it. Baby, confidence is key. Now watch me. Flex. Now watch me. Flex. Watch me while I flex. Watch me while I watch me while I I'm always on my grind. I don't got time for we. All that noise that I hear, I don't need that. I'm free. I got people in my ear. I got places left to see. You got me on your mind, but I'm not trying to be. Now watch me. Flex.
Make sure that you're hitting that like button. Make sure that you are hitting that like button. And also make sure that if you want to become a patron and support the show, patreon.com/the BPD show. Patreon.com/the BPD show, y'all. You'll get exclusive ad-free content and access to some never before seen stuff. And you get to be a part of the patron parties, including me. And it's off the chain, y'all. So go ahead and get that link. Go ahead and join, all right?
The brick, cut it, then export it. 100 million in the ditch, bury it and board it. Yeah. I know what you thinking. All this dirty money got me stinking. Work that girl and sink it. Yeah. Bring that back and keep it.
All right, Lions Den, the pod family. This is going to do it for your boy DJ Exclusive, y'all. Awesome show today. Most definitely thank you to our guest that came on this morning. Definitely had a great time. Shout out to Rebecca Free Azor. She will be back on Wednesday. So you got me and Ben tomorrow. But we're gonna keep it funny, keep it classy, keep it all that other good stuff, y'all. It's like it or not. Hey, thank you so much again for joining and watching this morning. Like I said, we hope you enjoyed the show, and we look forward to seeing you in the morning, y'all. Like it or not. Peace out. Mwah! Love you guys. Mean it.